I'd just like to say how amazing it is to be here speaking in Glastonbury, being part of this wonderful event, Portal to Ascension. The energy is fabulous. It's literally so high vibrational. It's through the roof. I know yesterday at the beginning, we called in many, many different dimensional entities and energies, and I know that they came in, and it's just so powerful. I've been speaking to people who are saying they're having difficulty in actually grounding this energy, even people who are pretty expert in grounding, and that goes for me too. I've had to struggle to ground this energy. So what's happening here with Portal to Ascension is truly mind-blowing and amazing. I knew it would be fantastic here, but I honestly wasn't prepared for just how amazing it is and how powerful the energy is. I just want to say thank you for everyone for coming along today, and thank you to the Portal to Ascension team for asking me to speak. Today, I'm going to be speaking about the dragons of Aurora. This was information that came forward as I was writing 2 of my books about how important dragons are, and some activations came through, and then more information since I wrote that last book, and then new information came forward at around the time of the Lion's Gate. So I decided that's what I would talk about today, as they're so important right now, and hopefully the dragon energy will help everyone to ground. So what I do is I ask the white-winged collective consciousness of 9 questions. I bring the responses forward, usually when I'm in a light trance state, but that's the state I think everybody's probably in right now. And I bring forward the responses. I usually do this through automatic writing. So I asked them 8 questions regarding the dragons of Aurora. So what I'd like to do is bring forward the information that they gave me in response to my questions. But I will also say that I myself am learning along with everybody else. Just because I'm bringing this information forward, it doesn't necessarily mean that I understand it all immediately or that I can process it all immediately. It takes time. So I then give my own interpretation of what I think the 9 are saying, but that doesn't necessarily mean my interpretation is right. I hope it's close, but I would just like to say that your interpretation of what the 9 are saying is the most important interpretation. So thank you. I will now begin talking about the questions I asked them. So the very first question I asked them was, why are so many awakened individuals drawn to dragons? And it really seems as though they are. And even not just awakened individuals, there are individuals who are drawn to dragons who are not perhaps someone we would say is awake. It's a huge love that we have for these fabulous beings. And so why? And this is what the 9 said. The dragon as a symbol is part of a cosmic light language, known also as a flame letter. Before I go any further, I would just like to, I asked the 9, what do you mean by flame letter? As we're going to go forward with bringing forward what you're saying, I'd like to have some kind of information as to what you mean by flame letter. So what they mean by flame letter is a symbol, image, letter, number, hieroglyph, or sound or music that is recognized by the innate intelligence and awareness within each individual's DNA memory, transferred through frequency as light, yet in truth sits in simultaneous placement through that which you know as quantum entanglement. So I think what the 9 are saying here is, how we perceive this is we see a dragon, which is a flame letter. It is in and of itself a symbol that the innate intelligence within us knows what it is. The DNA recognizes it. It's part of a language. And how we perceive that is we see the dragon, and then the DNA responds to that, and we may feel that in a myriad of ways. But what the 9 are actually saying is, what actually happens is when we see the dragon and we recognize what that is, the DNA is understanding it and communicating with that symbol immediately at the same time. That's what they mean by simultaneous placement through quantum entanglement. So when we see the dragon, the DNA is already activating. So does that mean that the DNA is activating and then dragons are drawn into our reality? Or does it mean that we see dragons and that activates our DNA? Well, it's both simultaneously at the same time. So that's what they mean by flame letter. They went on to say it sits within the morphogenetic memory field, coiled within the DNA, within every incarnated human soul. So I asked them, just briefly, what do you mean by morphogenetic memory field? And they said, a unified field of electromagnetic plasma frequency that holds the memory imprints or thought structures of all that has ever happened, all that is happening now, and all that has ever happened in all quantum realities and all timelines, known to many as the Akashic Records or the Akashic Library or the Akash. So that's what they mean by that. So this is coiled within the DNA, within every incarnated human soul, this cosmic light language. They went on to say each individual responds to the symbol of the dragon in different ways, depending on their own soul trajectory experiences through a journey of individualization, yet also through the ancestral codings within the DNA. Yet a great many starseeds, when they activate this DNA code, are drawn to the dragon. For the image of such a majestic creature is a memory of times gone by, in inverted commas, as in alternate realities or worlds or future times yet to come. So I feel what they're saying is the dragon isn't just a symbol. It's not just a flame letter, even though that's a big thing. The dragon is actually real, and they did exist in our world before we entered into this epoch. They did exist in times gone by and in future times yet to come. So they're actual real beings, as well as the fact that they activate the DNA for us and are part of this light language. And they went on to say the dragon is so much more than a symbol. A flame letter is in and of itself an activation. With the dragon, this activation is about frequency, energy, grids, networks, matrices, quantum systems, and structures. The dragon as a projection from the human memory field is a real presentation of consciousness as a structure, presenting in different forms within both a positive and a negative field. So it is important to know that, as with everything, as we're in a polarization, there is a positive dragon frequency and a negative dragon frequency. Obviously, today we're talking about the positive one and drawing the positive one in, but it's always important to be aware that we're in polarity, certainly within the third dimension. It holds the catalytic codices for all that awakened, star-seeded humanity souls are here on your planet to do, such as planetary and galactic grid activation, guardianship of the stargates, and ascension itself. So what they're saying there is the dragon holds codes for the individual's mission. And that is why each individual responds to the dragon differently, because each person has a different, unique mission. So when you connect with the dragon, you are connecting with a unique. The next question I asked them was, are dragons important at this time? And if so, why are they so important now? And I mean now in our time, 2023, why are dragons so important? And they said, indeed they are. It is quite complex. And I know that lots of people love the science and the geometry, and I do, I think it's fabulous. But I've met people who don't get it, and it can actually make them feel a bit lost and make them feel as though they're not worthy of being spiritual because they don't understand the science. Well, it's okay, you don't have to. If you work with the dragon and other flame letters, other elementals like mermaids and fairies and unicorns, all of these are flame letters. They all have a geometric quantum structure to them, and the DNA understands. You don't need to understand here at an intellectual level. It's great to It's wonderful too, and it's always good to activate the intellectual third eye as well as the heart and the knowing, but you don't have to, because Ascension is personal to you. You can do it in the way that's right for you, and nobody's left behind once they activate. Just because someone else is doing this in a different way to you doesn't mean that the way you're doing it is wrong. So that's why the dragon is so powerful, because it is that quantum structure that all our DNA is activating into, presented in the form of this amazing, majestic, elemental being. So I then asked them, what are the Aurora networks? Because they're saying the dragons of Aurora. So that's important too. What are the Aurora networks? And they said, these networks, those of Aurora, are the awakened individuals known to many of you as starseeds. So that's who the Aurora networks are. They are the starseeds, they are the activated ones. Why do they call this the Aurora? Well, they said the Aurora is the frequency that together is radiated by the starseed network as a pearlescent plasma light. Now, I feel this is why everything here today at this conference is so powerful, because when the Aurora network get together, or the Starseed network, or the Portal to Ascension network, whatever name you want to give to this collective, when they get together, they create not just form within beings, but they create this powerful plasma light, this encoded light that's downloaded to each and every person. I feel that is what's happening here, and it's quite unprecedented. I've been to events like this. I haven't known the energy to be this powerful before. So it's not just about the event, it's the timing of the event as well. It's, you know, today, August 12th, 2023. It's around the Lion's Gate. So we have an event and we have the correct, if you will, energetics or astrological alignments, however you want to see that. So we together here at this conference are creating this pearlescent plasma light, and it's a new light, it's a new creation. And I feel that's why so many of us who are so well practiced and expert in grounding, and many of us are teachers in grounding, are struggling to ground, because it's a new energy. And this event has brought this energy here. I also was told a couple of days ago, which is outside of this particular information, they said to me about America being such a central point for the whole ascension process and the shift from the third dimension into the fifth dimension. And I was saying, you know, do we need to go to America to actually connect with these energies in the US? And they said to me, and they were referring to this Portal to Ascension conference, they said, you do not need to go to America. America is coming to you. So that explains this energy. We need the US energy here with Britain. It creates something, you know, and that's what's happening with this conference. It's everything the nine have said, which I brought forward days ago, and I didn't even know it was going to happen until I got here, and here it is, and I know you can all feel it. So they went on to say, the collective consciousness of the starseeds creates an intelligence of positive polarization with heart, a sub-logos structure or group soul, if you will. So this pearlescent plasma that we're creating is a group soul. It is an entity, it is a structure, it is a being of love, and it's just so happy to see us all here together. It really is, and I'm sure you can all feel this. They said we refer to this structure as the Divine Princess Aurora, which is really a code for this Aurora energy, but there are many names for these group souls or sub-logos structures. Divine Princess Aurora as the twin flame counterpart to Archangel Michael, and the reason why they mention Archangel Michael is his energy is the male overseeing energy for the ascension process, also known as Yeshua the Christ. There are many names for Archangel Michael. He's not just one form, it's a convergence of forms, it's the Christed form. These group soul interdimensional consciousness structures are also known as avatars, ascended masters, Yet in truth, they are a collective, focused, cohesive DNA radiation at group level. That's what they are. So, you know, we can work with these ascended masters, these archangels and all these amazing beings, but what are they? They are the collective consciousness of us when we work together at group level. And that's what's happening right now. So it is amazing. So I asked them, well, what's our link to this vibration? I guess I knew the answer by the time I asked this question, but I wanted them to respond to that. They said, the link is the fact that the awakened and activated one steps into this as soon as they move into that which you know as enlightenment, if you will. So that's the link. The minute you awaken, the minute you step into this awareness, that link is there. But they also said, yet so too does the awakened one create it. So you create the link. The link's already there for you, and you create it simultaneously through quantum entanglement. It's all simultaneous. But we're living in this linear reality, and it's not easy to understand what this simultaneous time, this simultaneous connection is when we live in a linear reality. That's the ascension. That's what we're learning. 3D and 5D merged together and experiencing both at the same time. Yesterday, one of the speakers said something really profound, and that was Zoe. She said, let's take this energy now, which is just amazing and so vibrational and so powerful, but how will you feel when you get home? Will you take this with you, or will you be back to the sort of humdrum, normal reality? I'm paraphrasing. She didn't exactly use those words, but that stuck with me over last night. Because that's really important. That's what we're doing. We are taking this energy with us and then integrating it into the 3D reality and learning how to merge the two realities. And we all have to do this. We all have to go away from this conference and go back home, back to our lives. Yes, there'll be another conference. Yes, there'll be other events, other times when we can connect, but we have to find a way to take this energy with us and all the transformation that's taken place, and then take that into our day-to-day reality through an integrative process, and hopefully help others to do the same thing that we meet who may not be awakened. And we're there to help awaken them, because they will need that. They will need that as we go forward. I also said, how are the dragons connected to this network, this Aurora network? How are they connected to this? And they said, as flame letter structures, as image to communicate in simultaneous time, as instructional set for wave pattern for DNA formation within the higher geometry. That which you know as 12-strand DNA formation. Within the model we use, we speak at the level of 5th and 6th DNA strand. So they're saying here that the dragons are connected to the network as the flame letter structure, as the image to communicate in simultaneous time as an instructional set for this wave pattern within the DNA. So we see a dragon, we visualize a dragon, we work with dragon energy in our own unique way. This creates an instructional set. It tells the DNA how to move into ascension, or this would be what the 9 calls Stargate ascension, because you're creating these rose vortices within. It's the Merkaba, it's the flight, it's this plasma that I'm talking about. That's what they're saying. Now, when they say we speak at the level of 5th and 6th DNA strand, what they're saying is within the model of the 12 strands. So there are multiple models, and perhaps the most easy to understand for me personally is the 144 DNA strand model. But if you're looking at the 12 strand DNA, where we are right now is activating the 5th strand and the 6th strand. So before this energy started to activate everyone on this planet, we were in this double helix formation. But now we are moving into this 5th and 6th strand. What they mean by that is the quantum aspect of the DNA. So this isn't DNA that can be looked at under a microscope by scientists. This is quantum DNA. It's light filaments, light encoded filaments activating at the strand of 5th and 6th within a 12-strand model. So I also asked them, how are the dragons connected to us as awakened humans or starseeds? Again, I kind of knew the answer, but this is what they said. In a myriad of ways, both individual, personal, and at global, galactic, historical, futuristic, and flame letter levels. They, when utilized or worked with in alignment, provide the tetramorphic instructional set for the DNA transmutation, birthing or reflective fractalized self-similarity with an exponential progression as unique and individual cohesive form structures. Again, I haven't quite processed all of this, but what they mean by tetramorphic is it's something to do with four. The square, the tetragrammaton, is a powerful basic presentation of geometry that the DNA moves through as the DNA works to reconstruct back to the original human template. So the dragon is tetramorphic because it has these four aspects to it. And they mentioned this as being the wing, the torso, the tail, and the head. So the four is given to the DNA as a square, as a tetragrammaton, as a geometric shape. So this needs processing because that's going more into the science of it, but you don't need to know the science if you just visualize the dragon and you become aware there's a tail, there's wings, there's a head, and there's a torso, and these are the four aspects of the dragon. Now, when they say if you work with the dragon in alignment, what they mean is you're using the dragon as a activation tool. So it's not really a fleeting, oh, I like dragons, there's a pretty dragon, it's lovely, and then start thinking about your shopping or you're paying your bills or whatever. That's a fleeting thought. It doesn't take hold enough to create substance within. But when you look at the dragon and think, okay, I know the dragon as a being is an instructional set for my DNA, and I wish to activate my DNA, and I'm looking at the wings, I'm looking at the head, I'm looking at the tail, I'm looking at the body, I'm seeing the dragon in flight, I'm visualizing the dragon in flight. That's cohesive structure that will allow this to take place. And as I said, it's happening simultaneously because it's happening. It doesn't happen before you're aware, but it doesn't happen after you're aware. It happens the minute you're aware, which I know is difficult to get your head around. Reflective fractalized self-similarity. I don't know, I have to be honest, but I feel what they're talking about is some kind of symmetrical movement that takes place within the DNA. It's reflective. So like if you're in a hall of mirrors and you see multiple mirrors, so it's infinite and fractalized so that each mirror within that hall of mirrors is a whole, just like the original. And there's an infinite number of them, but they're all whole. And self-similarity, I feel that's what that means. It's the same. It's a repeating pattern in an infinite way. We don't have that in a double helix. We only have a partial activation. When we move into the quantum structure, we go back to the original set, which is why we're all having these thoughts and waking up and creating these energies, because it's all at one with the universe, the galaxy, and with the antimatter, with ether. We're moving at one with all of these aspects within ourselves, within others that we meet that are doing the same thing, and within location and within time. They said the dragon is as unique as the flowering structures its memory cascade catalyzes and produces. So what they mean is every single DNA formation in this fractalized self-similarity that they're talking about is completely unique within you. So we're all activating the DNA, but your DNA pattern is a unique presentation, a unique pattern, a unique structure, a unique sound. Just like snowflakes are all unique, just like our fingerprints are all unique, it's the same within our DNA. And then another question I asked is, in what way does this information provide catalysts for the key codes for accelerated or Stargate ascension. In what way is this information providing these catalysts? And they said, in multiple ways, depending on the individual and their level of awareness, understanding, processing, and activation. So you are going to get from this information what you need to get from that information. Wherever you are in your awakening, it will match that. Predominantly through flame letter geometry as image within mind, when cohesive and coherent, which is what I said about holding the image and working with it, rather than having a fleeting thought that doesn't take hold. The image is the instructional set. That's what they mean by cohesive and coherent as instructional set for DNA reformation and reconstruction, and thus light body, Merkaba, creation, and Stargate ascension. So kind of saying the same thing that they said before in a different way. And then they said the dragon is the guardian of the hermetic seal as the beehive labyrinthine construction. So what that is there's a seal around this DNA structure. There's a seal around the information. There's a seal around the actual activation within the land, and there's a seal around the activation within the individual. Now, why is there a seal that looks like a labyrinth or a beehive? They said protection without the 3D psychological trappings of needing to be protected from something, yet knowing that this is indeed the case. What they mean is when you ask for protection, you can inadvertently create a knowing that there's something to be protected from, which goes against what you're trying to do. Whereas if you create this beehive labyrinthine structure that the dragon is the guardian of, which is this seal, they said it's a creation of boundary as event horizon core nexus pivot point, and not as a walled system built through resistance. So what that does is it gives you protection, if you will, without creating this inadvertent structure within your mind and within your reality that there's something to be protected from, yet you're still aware that that is the case. So this is so it's like in 3D, there's something we need to protect ourselves from, which is why we're sealing this information, and we're sealing the energy, and we're sealing the structure, and we're sealing our DNA awakening, because we need to protect it. But we don't want to create this energy where there's something we need to protect ourselves from, because that is resistance. Therefore, the beehive structure does that, because it's an infinite structure, and it creates a boundary as an event horizon core nexus pivot point. What that is a boundary that moves. It's a boundary that isn't really a boundary. It's a boundary to us in 3D, but it's not a boundary in the higher dimensionals. It's an infinite structure without walls, as in not as a walled system. So the dragon's the guardian of that. So that is why when many of you may feel, I have some information that I need to impart, but I know it has to be protected. I know it's sacred. I can only tell certain people about this information. I dare not put it on text or on email. That's because they're feeling the need for this to be protected. But if they work with the dragon, and thus this beehive hermetic seal, then they magically seal that, and then they will only come into contact with individuals who also have a seal that are naturally sealing that, because this seal is within every single awakened individual. We can all, if you will, keep the big secret of our awakening, keep the big protection, but also we spread this to others who are waiting to awaken, because we don't have any walls, we don't have any boundaries. This structure is infinite. How am I doing for time, Neil? Okay, great, thank you. So the next question I ask them is, can you clarify, please, are dragons real? As in, are they literal living beings, or are they just metaphor as instructional set for the DNA transformation through imagery of mind? I have answered this already earlier, but this is what they said. Indeed, it is both of these. They exist within your literal third dimensional world in smaller form. They existed within your past epochs in the time you would know as Lemuria. They exist within your future as you move into what you may call the post-Atlantic epoch, New Earth, or New Hyperborea. I did ask them why they're calling this New Hyperborea, and they said, New Hyperborea, because this is the return to that which is plasmic as crystalline or silicate as base core structure, as opposed to that which is matter as bone and blood through carbon base core structure. The New Hyperborea is the result of the star-seeded alchemy that is taking place upon your planet, if you will, of such which is reaching critical mass, and the awareness, therefore, moving beyond the borea, which is the plasmic. So that's kind of what I was saying earlier about this energy that we're creating, this plasma. So that's what they mean by New Hyperborea, because the reason why they're calling that is there was a Hyperborea before. That's where we came from as we incarnated into this planetary system. We were this non-physical plasma, etheric intelligence, and we formed through these levels or time periods, epochs, into matter and blood and bone, which is a carbon-based structure. But now we are going back, but we are not going like we come down from our origin and come down here and then go back again. No, we're coming down like this from our origin, and we're going forward with the same place as there, but that's got something completely new in it, because we take everything we've learned in all of these lifetimes in 3D into that. And that also is known as New Earth. They said they can be worked with as fully realized consciousness expressions, so they're talking about the dragon, of their form in hyperspace or antimatter, as those who are called by the dragons will know. So anyone who's been working with the dragons are already working with that form within hyperspace, within antimatter, within spirit, whatever name you want to give to that fourth and fifth dimensional energy and world, our imagination that is so powerful, cohesive imagination. The locational space you exist within at your current now time nexus point in the domain you refer to as Glastonbury is indeed a birthing place for dragons, a dragon-kind keep or nest for the dragon eggs, and a portal for dragons to enter into your time space and into your dimension. It is thus important to note the dragon as the flame letter for time travel, Merkaba activation, and ultimately the transformational transmutation process of the DNA. Specifically for the holographic instructional set or map for Stargate or accelerated ascension. This is waveform, quantum hologram that holds that which is tetramorphic. This is tetragrammaton and is as the tesseract and is the quantum structure for each elemental node point held at the four corners of your reality within dimensional and cellular structure. The dragon is the ultimate depiction of such, with head, wings, torso, and tail. So I'm going to bring forward what the 9 said here, because this is more of an activation rather than information at this point. And they went on to say, the fifth element is the tetramorph. The fifth element to the tetramorph is the dragon rider. So we're bringing in a fifth aspect to this dragon. It is the dragon rider that changes the structure from organic template as creational presentation to organic template as creator itself, holding the code for ether or antimatter, allowing the merge or meld or marriage within matter, which is fusion or infusion, and thus results in complete portal travel or interdimensional journeying that is known to you as Stargate Ascension. Within this transmission, we have presented and delivered the catalytic key codes for the mechanics of this progressional evolutionary process of which we speak. We are the white-winged collective consciousness of 9. I do have more analysis, but where are we for time now? 10 minutes? Okay, great. So I then brought forward some of my analysis of this whole piece that the 9 brought forward, the activation and the information in response to the questions. And this is what I feel, but remember, your activation is unique. So what I'm telling you is my thoughts from the 3rd dimensional human perspective of how I see their information, but how you see their information is number 1. So my interpretation here is they're talking about what we have known for years to be kundalini, an energy or a liquid substance within our bodies that lies dormant until we activate it through taking a conscious spiritual path in life. So that's what I think they're saying. The merge or alchemical marriage of the feminine and the masculine within. And that is a crystallization process. So when we merge the male and female within, that's how we crystallize the carbon base. And that's the kundalini. The dragon, when visualized in a cohesive form, as I said, the cohesive dragon, meaning something to you, feeling the energy of the dragon rather than a fleeting thought. The dragon, when visualized in a cohesive form, not as fleeting thought, but as a visualization of substance holding energy and frequency, signals to or communicates with the DNA itself, letting it know you are ready for that uncoiling, this uncoiling of the quantum DNA or activation of the kundalini. So I feel that the kundalini, which I've always felt is at the base of the spine and curls or unwinds up the spine and goes over the head and activates the 3rd eye chakra so that one can see, and that's absolutely true. I feel that with the activation of the DNA, we've got an uncoiling going on in multiple parts of our bodies, not just the spine. I feel this is part of this quantum structure. It's throughout our entire body. So I also felt that you're able to work with the reconstruction of the DNA back to its original template, God source template, crystalline template, known to many as 12-strand or 144 strand, without understanding or processing any of the science or the geometry or the mathematics behind it. So I'm not saying don't listen to the geometry or the mathematics. That in itself is an activation. And for the indigo individuals, those who have an inquiring mind and want to know everything, then that science and that geometry is really important for you. But if you don't, you're not drawn to that, or if you are, but you don't necessarily understand it, or you need to take time to process it like me, then the dragon gives you the right-brained aspect to the logical left-brained focus. So you work that way. As I said earlier, you can do both simultaneously or one or the other in your own unique time. It's your choice how you go forward with this. So yes, and that's what I wrote. You can go through this process using the right hemisphere of the brain only without engaging the logical focus of the left brain if you don't want to in a linear progression. But eventually you will activate both hemispheres by virtue of the fact that you're moving into a crystalline structure, because the 2 hemispheres in alignment is the genius flow. And that is what the crystalline structure is. It's that of the genius. And that's what every single individual going through Stargate Ascension is becoming. They are becoming a genius. We might not necessarily feel like that. Some days I don't necessarily feel like a genius, but yes, that's what I'm told is occurring within our mind, within our heart, within our entire self and our persona of self. I wrote that this gives you time to understand and process the mechanics. So yes, if you work with the dragon and you are listening to information about geometry and science, or bringing that information through in your own channeling, working with the imagery gives you time to process the more complex material at your own pace, because you're still activating, you're still going through Stargate Ascension. A lot of people see this in a linear sense, and I have people say to me, I'm not ready to learn about this. And so am I, you know, way behind everyone else. I don't know what I'm doing, really. I don't know what my mission is. I don't know why I'm here where I am. I just feel I was guided. And what I'm saying is, yes, you're absolutely moving along in time with everyone else, because there is this infinite structure to the way that we can work with the mind and with the body, and the dragon being one of these aspects that we can work with, whether we understand the mechanics of it or not. So it gives you time, because you're still going through it. It's not like on Monday I can't ascend because I need to learn all this stuff. I can only ascend on Saturday when I've watched a load of videos and, and read all these books. No, you don't. You're ascending on Monday. You're going to read the books on Saturday and have some great information, but you're still ascending on Monday. I know you guys all know this. And then I wrote here, the innate knowing of how to do this is encoded into the DNA, passed down genetically. You know how to do this. You know how to ascend. You might sometimes need some assistance from others who have done this work in their own unique way, and you benefit from their work, but you know how to do this innately. Every single incarnated soul does. Many shut that off, and we know why, and we know that that's happening, but everyone here at this conference absolutely is doing that. So you know how to do this, and you're doing this in your unique way. It's passed down genetically, literally, through the divine princess Aurora, which is the feminine aspect. So this is passed to each soul through the maternal line. The mother, matter, holds the key code to pass down the innate knowing of how to ascend. The masculine gives other things, important codes, but the maternal line is that which passes down the knowing of ascension. And it is a specific geometry. It is a specific mathematics to it. I don't have that information. And when I do get that information, I'm also in the process of processing it myself, so I don't fully understand it. I'm a total student when it comes to the science and the geometry of this, but it is a specific code that is passed through the mother. Even if the mother isn't necessarily activated herself, it's passed through the genetic line, because it's within this simultaneous space. It's always activated and ready for when you personally activate it. This process occurs within the planet, the stars, the solar system, the galaxy, the universe, the multiverse, and so on, as it's a creational template. And that's what this is. It's creativity for every structure. This crystallization process, or alchemy, is therefore a natural organic evolution. And now it is the time for us to experience this collectively on Earth. And this is the process known as ascension. How are we doing for time, Neil? 4 more minutes. Okay. Okay, so I did say, on a physical and literal level, these actual mythical beings, the dragon, along with other elemental life forms like fairies, and they're so powerful as well and so unique as well, they did actually exist in this hyperborean phase of our evolution into human incarnation. And it wasn't just hyperborea, it was the early phase of Lemuria, when we were becoming solid, but we were still partly etheric, partly plasma. We were still crystallized. We hadn't come into full bone and blood and matter at that point. Actual dragons existed in multiple forms, actual fairies, little elemental beings with wings in multiple forms. They did exist, but they couldn't come with us into the density of 3D. So we chose to come into the human form. Now, some of us were those beings that were winged and fairies, and then their new incarnation was a human when they came into 3D. And a lot of those individuals who are awakened now are reincarnated elementals, and that's who their true form is. So fairies are really important too. The word dragon is an activation, a memory trigger for who you are. The word fairy is an activation and a memory trigger for who you are. And there are others. Excalibur, the sword, is a powerful DNA flame letter, and it is a memory trigger. So there are so many of them, which is why we're all drawn to Arthurian legends, dragons, elemental beings. There's a reason for it. They are our activations, they are our memories. These beings have remained in our consciousness and in that genetic memory. And because we're returning to that pre-evolutionary state in a totally new, unique, never done before form, we draw these mythical beings closely back to us and bring them physically back into the new dimension that we will experience. Hence the 9 are calling this the starseed's heritage, as we have inherited this memory and this knowing of how to move through these new frequencies. We know how to do this. Don't let anyone tell you that you've got to do this, you've got to read this book, you've got to take this course, or you can't do it. It's not true. You've inherited the knowing. You know exactly how to do this. The 9 said, the dragon is as unique as the flowering structures its memory cascade catalyzes and produces. Meaning, whilst we each go through this process together in unity, create the dragon work or dragon magic in unity, our experience and our creations, whilst very similar, will be unique, which I have already said. You can see this within the spiritual and holistic communities. So many very similar creations, both physical and more conceptual, yet each completely unique. This goes for the DNA patterns and structures that we create within us as well. And the dragon is the perfect protection for that creativity through this beehive, this labyrinth, this geometric spiraling shape that encases like a membrane around the DNA or around the energies within the vortices. And that is also known as the hermetic seal. It's an actual etheric membrane. So you have your own inner protection for your own creativity as well. How are we doing, Neil? Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you so much. I love you all. Thank you.